Hello and welcome back to Serving Up. Today I'm joined by Spencer Lovejoy, former professional squash player, founder of the National Squash League, and someone who's really helping push the sport in a new direction. We talk about his journey through junior squash, Yale, and the PSA Tour before getting really stuck into the NSL. Talk about how it started, why it's different, and what it could mean for the future of squash, both as live and a broadcast sport. It's a really interesting conversation about innovation, ambition, and where squash could go next, especially with this debut in LA 2028 getting closer and closer. Before we get into the chat, a thank you, as always, to our sponsors, ACC Leisure, who are helping secure the future of leisure in the UK, and to Oliver UK, racket pioneer since 1938. Okay, let's get into it with Spencer. Good evening, Spencer. You well?
Doing well, Shaun. Thanks for having me on the show today. Really looking forward to it.
No worries. I'm looking forward to it as well. I say good evening. It's afternoon with you, isn't it?
Yep, it's about 4:15 here in Philadelphia. It's actually a beautiful spring day. We've got some nice spring weather rolling in last week or so here. It gets a bit warmer here earlier than most other cities in the Northeast. So we're lucky. Yeah, it was about 75 degrees on Sunday. We had a nice little barbecue over here. So yeah. How's the weather over in the UK?
It has been raining all day today, but that's not exactly anything new. We'll have a couple of days of rain, and then hopefully we'll have some sunshine again. But we'll wait and see. It's not quite as warm as the weather most of the US tends to get. Obviously, I know like the mountain zone tends to get some pretty cold. And
well, have you ever seen the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I've heard of it, yes, with
yeah.
McElhenney buying Wrexham, which is about probably an hour and a half from me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's got some invested interest over there in the UK too. So yeah, Philly is always renowned for its sunny weather. So
yeah, well, I'll be in the city of brotherly love. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yeah, I've been living here for about 5 years now. So yeah, I've been loving it. So
good. I say, well, because you started off, it was New Haven, was it? You grew up?
Yeah, grew up in New Haven, Connecticut, or just outside of New Haven. Actually, the name of the town is Branford, Connecticut. It's a seaside town, 2 towns over from New Haven. New Haven, obviously, the home of Yale University, where I ended up going to college later on. But yeah, grew up there. Started playing squash at a small club called the New Haven Lawn Club, old school club with hardback courts, 4 of them. Learned playing there with my dad, and yeah, that's where the squash journey began.
Do you remember the first time you beat your dad?
Yeah, actually, vividly.
Vividly. I bet he does as well.
Well, many rackets were broken before that day. So my dad and I had a heated rivalry. It was always very competitive between us. I think that's probably where my competitive nature came from initially, because of my frustration that came from him constantly beating me. And we had some absolute battles, 5-gamers and whatnot, until I was about 13. I think it was when I was 13 is like that first time that I beat him again. Like it was a ripper of a 5-gamer. And, I was probably like, boosting the come-ons and everything. And so yeah, but, the father-son rivalry is always a good one, especially given that he taught me how to play squash and he coached me when I was a junior player. So always had a really good relationship with my dad. And yeah, I think it's definitely cool to be able to like grow up playing a sport with like either your dad or your mom or, one of your parents, kind of looking up to them and also just learn from them. And so, yeah, we had that cool relationship because of that.
Did he still used to play a match against you once you beat him, or did he sort of like Andre Agassi's dad just like go, no, you beat, no, not playing you again?
Yeah, we still played from time to time for sure. Like my dad was always super eager to get on court anytime, like do feeding sessions, play some games. When I started to get better, we used to just do like deep game. I would play conditions, I would play deep game, and he would play anywhere and do that. I mean, I did that with a lot of the members at the club growing up. Like there weren't that many junior players in New Haven that were around my level. So I played a lot with like the adult players. And then later on with the college players over at Yale. But yeah, my dad still plays, like he's just turned 60 this year, and he's still probably plays at least 2 or 3 times a week. So
Oh, keeping active then. Keeping active. What do you think was an advantage for you then, having to play adult as a junior rather than obviously if you'd grown up in, like say, New York or Philly, obviously with the Spectre Centres, you probably would have been more likely to play people your own age. Do you think there was an advantage to you playing adults?
I mean, I think you gain that extra experience just because adult players, they play a little bit different from junior players. You know, they probably are not as mobile, so they have craftier shots. They have a little bit better technique from, you know, years and years of playing, and you know, probably tactically a bit better. So I think you definitely learn, you know, the tactical and technical things from players who have more experience than you. But you know, I think it's definitely important to play against both growing up as well, because playing against other junior players, it's more, you know, what you're up against. But I think it's great to have a mix. You know, it's great to have anything that can really push you to think critically and change your game is always a positive in my opinion.
And the junior scene in America has just grown exponentially, even from, I say when you were a junior, you're not even in your 30s yet, so it wasn't that long ago you were a junior. But what's sort of the biggest changes you've seen from, you know, when you first started your junior journey to the players starting their junior journey now in the US?
Yeah, I mean, to give you some context, I think when I was under 15 or like under 17 player, you know, that was about 10 years ago. I'm 27 now. So about 10 years ago, we were just starting to send players over to the British Junior Open to compete. Obviously, British Junior Open being one of the most prestigious junior tournaments in the world. We were kind of just starting to send players over, and maybe we would have a few players that would go and have some good results there, maybe make it to the latter rounds, quarterfinals, semifinals. Now we have, you know, a group of probably 50 juniors that goes every single year to US Junior Open. I don't know if you've ever been there to see like the, you know, entire Team USA in full kit and everything. You know, and then the results are astounding now from the US Junior players going through like, you know, record numbers of quarterfinal, semifinal appearances. So the depth overall, I would say, in the junior game has just increased so much. And I think partly just due to the increase of participation in school programs throughout the US. I think that's one of the biggest drivers for growth here in the US is just the presence of squash in school programs, both high school as well as collegiate programs. And I mean, these universities, they have so much money and they have the, you know, the means to build the facilities. And that's really what you need. You need more facilities in order to grow the sport. So, you know, through those universities, more courts have been built and more people are picking up squash and playing. So, and it, you know, it becomes, you know, a new way to grow the game here. So I think that that's been a big driver.
Yes, I did go to the British Junior Open this year and met most of the USA team. And in fairness to all the kids, easily the most polite group out of all of the countries. In fairness to them, really did the US proud in terms of how they represented themselves. You know, and you had a few one seeds as well, like you say, obviously like record breakers. Not just, you know, they were expected to do well, not like the odd person springing their surprise. Do you think that obviously now you've mentioned more schools being more accessible to schools, but they've now got more people to point to of who they could be with the Sobey sisters, with Olivia Weaver, obviously Timothy Brownell doing any crazy thing he can think of on a court. Probably great to pull up a video in his school of, oh, do you want to look at this corkscrew? You know, is that another thing that you think is helping it as well, being able to actually point to players?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that the more high profile players that we can produce in the US, the more inspiration we can enact in our juniors coming up. I mean, Timmy doing, you know, crazy corkscrews and like, you know, making viral videos and viral moments during matches. Like the youth obviously are now like everyone is online, everyone is seeing this stuff. So that becomes like a real inspiration for them. So I think the players, especially in this new age, have the ability to really influence the next generation, especially through the media now, which is like so prevalent. So, yeah, you rattled off the main ones: Olivia Weaver, the highest ranked female player. Timmy Brownell is knocking on the door of becoming the highest ranked ever men's player in history. And then obviously you have the Sobey sisters, who have always been up there. But yeah, now I just think now with the media and with social media, especially, the things that those players are doing out there are now being amplified to such a higher degree. And so they become even bigger pedestals for the upcoming youth, because now they can really, portray themselves in front of a larger audience, rather than just the audience that maybe you have at a tournament that will see that one moment. Now thousands and thousands of people online will see those things that they do in the various countries that they play in.
I said another big thing for the US is, I mean, you've always had the university squash, but it does seem to have gotten even stronger and even more aspirational. I remember one or two people around my age, I'm only a little bit older than you, sort of mentioning, oh yeah, maybe I'll go to the US and go to university, rather than now if I go to a junior event, there's quite a few that mention I want to go to, and they won't just name the university and say I want to work with John White, I want to work with David Patton. They'll say I want to go for the university and the coach.
Yeah, I think that having the stronger coaches as well as just the stronger players involved, it just only benefits everyone because it becomes an attraction. Like you said, players want to go to Cornell because David Palmer is the coach there. He was a world #1 player. Siva Sangari, trains there. Veer Chatrani goes and, he played on the Cornell team and now goes there to train. So also just like the sheer density of like good players being around at all times. Like you look at a school like UPenn or Drexel, like obviously they have great coaches like John White, Gilly Lane, but then they also have like close proximity to a place like the U.S. National Center that has like professionals training there, and their players can go over and get matches and train with Team USA and stuff like that. So just by virtue of having more players in the U.S., it becomes more attractive to be able to go to college, play squash at a high level, get a world-class education, as well as still entertain the dream of becoming a professional squash player and really going after that dream too. So I think in the past, sometimes it was a tough decision. Like if you wanted to go pro, maybe you had to move to the UK and, somewhere where there would be like a really good concentration of pros and coaches. Whereas, now the US is becoming a place where there is a really good concentration of pros and coaches too. So it becomes more feasible for, I think, players to come and play and pursue their dreams of becoming a pro player, as well as getting a great education.
Do you think, because obviously Ali Farag also went to university in America first before just going, seemed to be like he went straight to #1, but do you think that sort of helped the image as well? Because obviously that gets mentioned quite a bit, that he went to the university first.
Yeah, Ali was a big trailblazer, definitely. I think that he was one of the first to really go on to become world #1, maybe the first to become world #1 after going to a university. I don't know if any other college player has ever done that. But you might have to fact check me, but
I think he is the first. I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. And to obviously have the Harvard name associated with him, world #1, that becomes a very attractive marketing tool for Harvard, obviously, to show that it's possible, to come over here, benefit from the Ivy League experience, education, and then also go on and be an incredible squash player and play the pro tour for years and win tournaments and titles. And, after that, you see players like Yusuf Ibrahim, Victor Crouan, you see, Timmy Brownell, myself, doing the same thing, going to college and then taking on the pro tour afterwards. So
yeah, certainly don't sell yourself short. You got to, what was it, 63 in the world was your highest, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 64 was my highest ranking. Yeah. So
No, that's there's not many people that get to that. And for you, did college reinforce your love of squash? Did it make you think, wow, I actually can go pro? Or was it sort of a mix?
I was always, or I always had the aspirations of going pro from a young age. It was always something I, had dreams of doing since I was 12, 13 years old. So I obviously wanted to go to college, because it was it was a good experience. And, initially, obviously I was young and inexperienced, but it's something my parents told me I had to do. So, go and get a good education. And obviously, that they were very supportive of me growing up and my dreams to become a professional squash player, and grateful that I was able to do that, and make it work, and do it for 5 years. But I would say that the older I got, the more experience I got, the more grateful I was for the opportunity that I really got. Going to a university as prestigious as Yale. And it's one of those things that in the moment, sometimes you take it for granted a little bit. And it's like, and you look back and you're like, I should have maybe paid more attention in class, or, but it's, I'm so grateful for the opportunities I got at Yale. And I met so many great people there, learned so many things, surrounded by really, really smart individuals who taught me a lot of lessons. And then there's also, the whole idea of playing team squash, which is such a fun thing to be able to do. And it's unique to an individual sport where we don't get to play for a team. At least once you graduate college, there are less opportunities to play for a team. I really cherished, all the moments I got to play for the team, at Yale. Some of my best moments, and my best memories came from being with the team and hanging out with the guys, and long bus rides, and just building really, really good friendships that would last my whole lifetime. So yeah, overall, an amazing experience to obviously get the education, meet amazing people, build those relationships, and play for a team, which is a unique experience, playing squash. So
I imagine that obviously played a big part in when you and Timmy started talking about doing the NSL, doing it as a team event rather than just a individual. And we've got there is a Super League in the UK, which is a team event, but that's far more traditional. It's best of 3 to 11, and that's what it is. They've introduced a bit different, where they'll have like a women's and over 25, and they'll have like a club hero as well. They're still an incredible standard, but they're local to the area. But you and Timmy sort of started from a blank slate and went, what would we like to see? Did you start from the what would you like to see, or did you start from this is what needs to change about squash?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think honestly, the question we asked was, if you were to build a squash match from scratch, what would it look like? It wasn't really what needs to change. It was more like, what would we like to see in squash? And so that's one of the ways that we really got, that's how we really created the unique format that is the NSL now. We looked at other major league sports that we loved, and we took little elements from them, and basically transferred them into a squash match. So, to speak about a few of them, the running clock, the substitutions, the power plays, obviously the team format, the city allegiances, the jerseys, all that stuff was kind of inspiration that we took from other sports that we really love, and just kind of combine it into one match, and try to create some really, really unique moments, some entertaining moments for fans, and really just create an awesome squash event is really what we were trying to create. So yeah, it was a really unique opportunity. And yeah, but to answer your question, we really just saw it as a blank slate, and then to use our creative vision from there.
What's sort of like the favorite thing that you've pinched, and from what sport is it that you've pinched?
It's got to be the power play. Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen a couple of our matches, tune in on the YouTube page, but the power play has really been an engaging change that we've made to the format. And there have been some power plays done in squash, but not the way that we do it. I think there was an event called the Nations Cup that they did back in New Zealand a couple years ago where they did do a power play, and it was the 1 point equals 2 points. Like if you call it, you get 2 points rather than 1 point. So it raises the stakes a little bit, but this was really like a change up to that because it's 2 minutes where only the team who calls the power play is able to score. The other team is just defending for 2 minutes. So it really pulls on that similarity to hockey, the NHL, where a team that is on power play is attacking, try to get a bunch of shots off on goal, shoot as many times since they have a 5-on-4 advantage. So you get to see a lot of action during that time. You get to see a lot of risky plays. And basically as a fan, like some crazy stuff is going to happen during the power play. So we wanted to create a similar thing where our fans are constantly looking forward to those power plays, and they know some crazy stuff is going to go down. Like players are going to go for, crazy slam dunk nicks, corkscrews, 3-wall boasts, anything to win a point quickly. And then for the defending team, it's like, just survive, just try and survive on court as long as you can. And that's also super entertaining because, sometimes obviously the home team is like rooting for their player to really defend well the power play and not let any points on the board. And, we've had some really good, like shutout power plays where like the player defended super well and like didn't allow, any points or very few points. Like we had a really cool scenario where Ivan Perez, like number 80 in the world, was on court defending a power play against Mohamed El Sharbaghi, number 8 in the world. And he shut him out. 0 points for Sharbaghi on power play for 2 minutes. So that was a pretty cool, like lower ranked player, just like using his defensive skills to shut out like a higher ranked player. So yeah, it's created a lot of cool matchups, a lot of cool moments. So far it's been really well received.
We should probably explain the basic rules of NSL before we go any further. Do you want to sort of take it away? If somebody has never even seen squash, let alone the NSL, do you want to sort of take us through the rules?
Yeah, so the NSL is a totally different new team-based concept. It's a 3 versus 3 team match played over 3 periods of time squash. The first 2 periods are 20 minutes each, and the last period is 30 minutes. On top of that, the first 2 periods are worth 1 point each, and the third is worth 2. So basically, you could win the first 2 periods and then lose the third and find yourself tied 2-2, in which case you'd go into an overtime shootout, which is where it's a best of 5, 1 point shootout. Each player in your team matches up against a corresponding player. And essentially, you can imagine like a penalty shootout in soccer. It's mano a mano, kicker versus goalie. And it's super quick. Things could change on a dime. And it's a great way to just finish the match in a really exciting way. And then within each period, each team has substitutions. So within a limited quantity, a team can actually change the player that's on court, bring on a player with a different skill set in order to, change the tactics or, score more points, or if a player is tired, putting on a fresh legs. And then the last portion would be the power play, as we were just talking about, Shaun, where the team that calls it is the only one that can score points for a 2-minute duration. And each team has one of these available in each of the first 2 periods, and then 2 of them available in the third period. So a lot rests on the coach's decision-making in these matches as well, which is a cool portion of it. So the players are not the ones making these decisions. It's the coaches that are off court kind of analyzing, how their player's doing, how they're feeling. Are they on a hot streak? Are they not? Are they cold? Are they tired? Are they stressed? Like what? And then the coach actually has things that they can do to affect the results of the match. So what you'll see is like coaches making either good or bad play calls. And that becomes like a really cool talking point for fans, because I mean, I'm sure you've seen on like sports networks and stuff, fans reacting to like bad coaching calls, or like, bad substitution made in the Premier League, or, a terrible play call in the NFL. So it's become an exciting new talking point for us in the NSL, these coaching decisions and, when to substitute players, when to call the power play. We also actually, one rule that I forgot about that's been a really good addition this year is timeouts as well. So a coach can also call a timeout to just kind of like break the momentum, take their players, discuss the strategy. And we've seen those used to great success as well.
I think the set time is quite underrated, because we've seen it obviously in American sports with baseball most recently. You could go to a baseball game and it could be 2.5 hours. It could be as ridiculous as 6 hours. I remember going to America in 2011, and it was can't remember who the Tampa Bay Rays were playing, but in the end it went to like 18 innings and like 2 a.m. It was a ridiculous game, rather than now that they've introduced the pitch clock, it's going to be roughly this length, and they've seen the attendance go up. Do you think that's because people are going to know, well, it's this, I'm going to be out of the house for roughly this many hours, that's my evening sorted?
Yeah, and that was definitely one of the things that we thought about at the very onset of this project was, how do we make this match easy for fans to go to, approachable, easy to plan around their schedule, and then eventually easy for streaming online and on TV, with defined times for advertisements, for breaks, for TV slots to just slot in. And, this match is going to be 90 minutes. That's the match. And then it's over. You can go on to whatever the next program is. So I think it's easily packageable, and it's really, really versatile for like whatever you really need to use it for. Fans can plan around it. They can, like you said, have their dinner plans, set, and they don't have to commit to a multi-hour affair like certain sports. Some sports, cricket used to be, I guess, but they've kind of changed that around too, with like the test cricket as well. Indian IPL league, I'm a big fan of that new concept. And then in baseball with the pitch clocks, in tennis with the serve clock. So the clock is just like, it's a constant in sports. And that's one of the reasons why we felt like we had to do it. We had to have this be with a clock, because it adds urgency to the play as well. Like players we find now, like they feel that urgency on court, and they're not like lollygagging around like in between rallies. Like they grab the ball and they go and they serve. Like the pace of play is faster. There's more rallies. There's less interferences, because players just don't want to, like, they just want to carry on. They don't question the referee as much because they see the clock is ticking down. They're like, well, if you're losing and, you're questioning the referee, then it's like, oh, well, I'm wasting time that I could be playing a rally right now.
Is there penalties if it's the other way? Say now I'm beating you 10-8 and I can see there's 2 minutes and I just start arguing with the referee for the sake of winding the clock down?
So that's one of the trickiest things that we're going to have to approach as this becomes more professional as well. And obviously as the better players and like more money gets involved, obviously different tactics start to come to the fore. And we actually saw it in our last match this past weekend with Philadelphia Freedom and the New York Queens, the women's match, that it was to decide the winner of the division. And it was starting to get chippy at times. And the New York Queens were leading. And then Feyrouz Abouker started to stall a little bit. And the Freedom team got a little bit annoyed by that. And so, the referees have to be super on their game about the stalling tactics, and they have to be very, very harsh on giving point penalties if they see stalling, if they see a player hit the ball away or like try to tie their shoe or whatnot, either stopping the clock or giving away point penalties for that kind of antics. So, it's really just a matter of making sure that the officiating is like really buttoned up, and that the players understand that like that's not really in the spirit of the league itself as well. Like we don't want to see players doing that. We don't want to, obviously wouldn't want to be in a situation where we would have to fine people or take money away from them because of their behavior on court. But yeah, it's definitely not in the spirit of the game or the league to do that kind of stuff.
You've mentioned like sponsors and getting bigger there. How was the initial conversations with getting people on board, and how has that sort of changed, now that there's been a few years of you doing it?
Yeah, it was definitely hard at first. I mean, it's a hard sell. Like essentially we were trying to sell a new sport to a lot of people. Obviously, it's the same sport with the same rules, at a core, but totally different concept. Something that never been done before, really, especially here in the U.S. So it was a new, unique idea, and Timmy and I brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm and belief for it. And obviously, we still believe in this idea so much, and think it can be such a great driver for the growth of the game. But yeah, at the onset, it was difficult to sell people on something that they had no idea what it really looked like. But thankfully, we did have some early investors who believed in our enthusiasm and energy and passion, which was really the thing that got us over the line, I think, in a lot of our early conversations. And I think they're now pretty happy that they got on board and they're part of the project now that it's really starting to materialize. And now we really kind of have proof of concept that these events are awesome. They're really engaging for fans. People want to come out to them. And we're only looking to continue doing more of them. So
how, obviously the NBA right now are talking about expansion. Obviously, I imagine what you're thinking as well, for totally different reasons, as the NBA has 30 teams and that's just the men's. How many teams have you got total now in the men's and the women's?
So between the men's and women's, we have 15, which is quite a few, 9 men's and 6 women's. And yeah, I mean, team expansion is always a tricky subject when you get to sports leagues, because every time you expand to a new team, you dilute the rest of them. And, it's obviously within the interest of the league to have a good spread over the country. But, it's always a debate as to which market is best to go to, where are we going to get the best return? And, depending as well on the ownership group and what their hopes are, and their financial backing. And, there's just so many factors that go into it. And I mean, to speak on team expansion a little bit, it's definitely something we're interested in doing. We definitely want to have a couple more teams in some different regions around the U.S. We haven't really touched that much on the West Coast yet. We just recently expanded to Seattle. We'd love to have a couple more teams over there, especially in pockets where there are growing squash communities, such as San Francisco, LA. We have the games there in 2028. Houston is a great squash community. Over there's Houston Squash Club. They have the Gold PSA tournament every year. And then even down places like Miami and the southern regions of the U.S. that don't have as much squash. It's just really cool to be able to have some teams in some places that really don't get that exposure and could really grow their community around it. So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be interested in bringing on a couple more teams. I don't know where yet. We're having some conversations with different cities, but beyond that, the real challenge will be expanding the number of games for each team as well. And it's something that all of our team owners have been vocal about doing. All of our teams want to have multiple matches throughout the year, and be able to really build a professional season around it, and have 2, 3, 4 matches at home and on the road. And so being able to scale the number of matches that each teams have is definitely a big goal, and we want to build that. We want each team to have a really robust season that their fans can follow and really get excited about. So yeah, that's another thing that we're working on.
Yeah, I suppose that's going to be, like, obviously when you expand, you can hopefully have just a bigger pool of players rather than sort of dilute what's there. But I think your probably biggest challenge is going to be whether you go, like you mentioned, cricket, like the English cricket season runs pretty much the same time as the international cricket. So you'll see the best players hardly ever play for their own counties, rather than a sport like darts, which has got their Premier League. They sort of work that around the tournaments. They know their tournaments are usually at the weekend, so they do the darts on a Thursday, so players can have at least one travel day. Do you see a world where rather than ending up like cricket and players have to pick, that somehow you go the darts way and the PSA go, right, we're going to leave this week free, or this Monday, first Monday of every month, or these, and then you can play your matches on there? Do you see that's the avenue you'd rather go down?
Yeah, I definitely see a potential bigger collaboration with PSA coming in the future years. I think we are a complementary product to PSA. We're a team-based league. PSA is the individual professional tour. So we're definitely not looking to hold events during, as much as we can kind of during PSA events. But at the same time, it's a busy calendar. So it's almost, it's pretty hard to not overlap with PSA events. But one thing we're really trying to do in the next season is coordinate our season with the PSA tournaments that are going to be in North America, so that the players that are coming from all over the world playing tournaments in the US will also then be able to play in the NSL matches. Because when you think about PSA events, a lot of them, they start on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then most of the draw is out of the tournament by a Friday or a Saturday. It's only really the four semifinalists or finalists that are still playing. And I remember from my days on the PSA Tour, oftentimes like I'd have a bad tournament, I'd lose first or second round, and then I'd be kind of twiddling my thumbs until the next week if I'm playing a back-to-back event. And that's where the NSL, I think, kind of really slots in well, and can really benefit, especially the players kind of outside the top 10, where who are still fantastic players, really, really skilled players. But sometimes they, unless they have a really good run, won't make it through to the latter rounds of a tournament. And so the NSL can really be a great financial support for them, something to play in the meantime while they kind of wait for their next PSA tournament. Super competitive, engaging, fun, team-based league, something that you don't get to do every day. And the players get to build these new relationships in different cities around the US where they might not otherwise travel to. So yeah, I see it being very complementary to like all the PSA events that are going to be hosted in the US.
And is the hope that obviously with your recent retirement and now really focusing on the NSL, do you think that's going to really help sort of drive these conversations? Because you're going to have time to do it now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've been putting all my time into it since I retired last July. So I've been full-time since then. I've been working, hard every single day, trying to start conversations with, new potential sponsors, new investors, obviously working on our product itself, developing it, making the matches better, introducing new, more entertaining aspects to each of the matches. So yeah, we're really building something here, and we have big aspirations for the league. We really want it to be, to bring squash to the next level here in the US, work with the best players, and, have amazing, packed, entertaining events for all of our teams. So
do you see a world where maybe they say, like a special PSA event where it's still just the individuals rather than the team, but they sort of pinch your rules, where they say you're going to get to do the power play, we're going to do 3 timed games? Do you see a world where they try to do that, sort of one way of introducing the players to seeing what it's like?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know if.
Or would you run one?
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about an individual event or?
Yeah, an individual event. Yeah, so you can,
Like
have it like as a gold or a silver or something, and be like, we're going to do different rules, but it's going to count.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for introducing new formats to the sport, stuff that could engage the fans more. I think that we have done a pretty good job of that with our format, but I think that it could definitely be done in an individual manner, for prize money, for PSA points as well. I think that it would be super interesting, because they do certain tournaments where it's 2 out of 3 games to 11 rather than 3 out of 5. So, and those are officially sanctioned PSA events. It would be interesting. It would be really interesting, actually. Maybe shorten the format a little bit. Have it be like maybe 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and 20 minutes, or something like that, or 15 minutes, 15 minutes, and 25 minutes, and just have it be mano a mano. I'd be interested to see that for sure.
I think it'd just be an interesting way of, like you see with some of the finals, like if you look at the last 2 in Australia and New Zealand, like go to the first one, New Zealand, Zachariah and Makin play for 2 hours in the semi-final, and Zachariah has got nothing left in him
Yeah.
to really play cold.
Yeah.
Then you go to Australia, Zachariah be making again. They decide to have a short match this time, and it's only an hour and 110 minutes.
Right, only 110, yeah. Easy
Only
one.
only 110. And the first game Joel has with Paul is 45 minutes.
Right.
You know, I grew up with Joel, and he is very much a warrior. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, so much respect for him. But yeah, that's a long game of squash.
it's a long time. But if it was a time limit, nobody's got an advantage of who you happen to play. You can still get the advantage, obviously, if you win, you know, the first couple and then the last one's sort of done and dusted.
Yeah.
But, you know, that might be a way of making the finals a little bit less predictable, so to speak.
Yeah. No, I think it's an awesome idea. Honestly, I would love to see it play out, actually. So maybe,
Well,
maybe
it's your, maybe we get together and see what we can do.
But yeah, I mean, I think that, like, to speak on your point about you know, games in the PSA being very long and drawn out, you know, I think one thing that having the timer really does is it creates urgency, like I said before. And so the players know really like how to they almost know like how to budget their energy expenditure. So they know like, okay, and this goes for the team aspect as well, but they know like, okay, I'm only going to go on court for 8 minutes here. So I know exactly like how much I can push and like how hard I can play for 8 minutes. And then I'll get to come off and have a rest. So I can then like recharge. So I don't have to budget any. And so what we've seen in the NSL is like actually players playing harder and like faster pace and like more explosive than on the PSA Tour, because they know, okay, if I'm only going to play for 6 minutes here, I'm going to leave it all out there, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to be sliding around. I'm going to be, you know, upping the pace. I'm going to be taking the ball in early. I'm going to be super, you know, play with a lot of purpose. And so that's been really cool. And, you know, I think that could go for the same if, you know, if it was just a 1v1 match as well. Cause like, you know, the two players would know exactly how long they're on court for, you know, whatever the time is, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes. They know exactly, you know, what that's going to look like. And so do the fans. The fans know that the match is going to come to an end after 40 minutes or 45 minutes of play. So
yeah, I think, you know, we've gone from British scoring to pass scoring, American scoring. I do think where you've gone in sort of the timing, and I know Rami Ashur has tried to do a similar, slightly more complicated version as well, where it was like 5 games of 4 minutes, but you've got to stop the clock when the rally stops, and, you know, but I do think going that way of, you know, it's having the spectators be able to know the session starts at 3. It's going to be 4 hours, 4 matches of 45 minutes and 15-minute breaks, right? They'll finish by 7. I can book dinner for 7:30. It's something as simple as that.
right.
I say I'm conscious of time because you've been very generous with it. I do want to give you a quick fire sort of section before I do let you go. So don't think too much about these. Supposed to be very, very instinctive answers.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
So first question, what is the best atmosphere you've played in?
Ooh, I've got to go with, I mean, the one that comes to mind is always at the US Open. I got the wild card a couple of years, and I had a really good match against Ali Abu-Alainen, where I had like all my friends come out. And yeah, I think playing in front of your home crowd is always a really special experience. And you know, if it was during prime time, you know, kind of like the 6 p.m. on a Friday or a Saturday, and got a lot of people to come out, support me. So that was a really good one.
Hardest part of tour life?
I would just say, kind of being on your own a lot. You have to learn how to live. You know, it can be a lonely lifestyle at sometimes. And you really have to, you know, make friends on the tour, and you know, keep your mind from wandering sometimes, because it can be lonely.
Is there one rule in squash that you change tomorrow?
I would say it would have to go around the refereeing. And hear me out on this one, because we've actually had some talks about this rule with refereeing. So basically, the player has to indicate a let or a stroke to the referee rather than appealing for all three options. So basically, an interference happens and the player signals either a let or a stroke. If the player signals a stroke, the referee can only give a stroke or a no let. If the referee signals a let, they can be given a let or a no let. So you kind of get rid of the gray area.
Yeah, I heard this idea from Timmy ages ago before Christmas, and I've asked a few people about it, including Roy Gingell, obviously the head referee, and I think it'd make a massive difference just on the basis of the people fishing going, oh, I better just make that extra effort because I'm not sure I'm going to get a stroke. There's no point getting a let and just pushing through.
Yeah.
I think it make a big difference. And I do. Was it Timmy's idea or was it a joint idea?
No, it was actually I have to give credit to a random Reddit user years ago who like posted this on Reddit. I definitely can't take credit for it. But like some guy on Reddit proposed this, and I mean I saw it and I was like, that kind of makes sense. But like, and then someone brought it up actually. The co-owner of the Philadelphia Lightning team, he was like, hey man, like, I remember this Reddit thread like years ago. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And now we're kind of like in a position where maybe we could implement it with the NSL.
Please do.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely thinking about it because I think it eliminates the gray area, like you said, of like just kind of chucking it in like some random like go for the body and just see what happens. Because the player then has to really like sit there and think critically for a second and be like, okay, wait, is this a let or is this a stroke? And personally, I think that a lot of players will just be like, I don't really feel like making the decision myself, so I'll just go and play the ball. And then it also forces intent. So it's like, if you really think it's a stroke, then you're going to call a stroke. If you don't, you're going to like just go for the let and then just, replay the point. I think it kind of, it gives a little more visibility to the fans of like what is happening here. Because I think sometimes new squash fans are like a little just confused by why players stop for lets and strokes. Like, what is the deal with that? So if the player is a little bit more transparent about like why they're stopping, it could help things.
Two last ones for you. One former player, you can pick them at their prime from any moment in time that you'd like to sort of pick up and just plop in the NSL to play.
Amr Shabana for sure.
I can imagine him on the power plays going for.
But he'd also just be so chill. Like I feel like he'd be so like icy at like the last minute of the period. Like you'd always throw him on, like if the score was tight, and he'd just be like your clutch guy.
And then is there one current player who you've not had yet, who you'd love to have play in the leagues?
Yeah, I think we would love to have Diego play. Diego would be a great one. Super entertaining player, unique style. We would have loved to have Ali play while he was still on tour, but now he's retired. I don't know if maybe we can pull him from his retirement.
Yeah, he's got more time in his hands. What's he on about?
Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, we would love to have Ali Farag or Diego, I think.
I say, well, thank you very, very much for your time, Spencer. I will let you crack on with getting more sponsors and changing with the rules and getting squash some more publicity in the US and, well, indeed the world as well, obviously with streaming as well.
Thanks, Shaun. Yeah, it was a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. Thank you. Take care. And that was Spencer. I hope you really enjoyed that. It was a fascinating look into both his own squash journey and the bigger vision behind the NSL, from new rules, new formats, for finding better ways to grow the sport and connect with fans. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you like, follow, subscribe, Serving Up, wherever you found us, and share it with somebody who you think would enjoy it too. And a thank you, as always, to our sponsors, ACC Leisure, who are helping secure the future of leisure in the UK. If you have any flooring needs whatsoever, whether that's a squash court, paddle court, sports hall, whatever it may be, reach out to the team. Be more than happy to help you. And to Oliver UK, racket pioneers since 1938. Next week is the start of a 3-part series of this Goats of Squash. Myself and James Zeg will be looking into the men's goat and the female goat, and then with a little epilogue with Andrew Shelley as well from the Squash Library. Look forward to that first mini series, and I hopefully will catch you in all of them. Until then, take care.